Channel 360 DSTV Ocean Semna no watie ni nyina bi ewo ho aseda ekwama this way chocolate drink de ohia enso hie afre special ice ensio ede na special ana omu krai mu ewo sika FM enwumai adaroma don hwe baako entem no ye de agoprama so de beka ho ne de ni nyina asomo se kase memamu nyina akwaba obahima afia kire me na me somo ensema obahima afia kire me na me somo ensema obabetie ni ebi enie ability series no enne asoye hwe akwan ne akwantempon ho nsem so ko yakotie di osoafo no eka Omampanyi John Dramani Mahamadi ato bibi mampanyimfo anim se emre bi atwam ebi mu baye no mu twasa ne chia ya ene yakanifo a eba no hwe se wo mu de ensesa ebeba no mu de yie atoye na kotwa bi a wo a omamiamia katakata achi ama atumi ayefefefe na bwakon sensem ya emunso adaro omampanyi de adesede atukusasi ni mampusifo anim se asumdwe wo ho paa o so omma ne kwan a obaji adwa enti omunso asumdwe enhye adom kuma wo mrashebedwam ese aban anya akonya ade eto taxes mako nwoche ayefofo kra aba enso ne nyina mafiafia hyase bepem enne sika bi anka wo so otumi buaboa no eje no emu ba se 3 billion ne ekire de wantumi enu hu kra ensem ne bebre eka we ho bede bema wo elkasebo no emom yentie ensem no enhyemo Omampanyi John Dramani Mahamadi ato abibiman panyimfo ene aman ahoro a edom abibiman nyina ese wo muntwa ntomansi ombo no muntwa sapa ento se ebi beye bi no mo ye mfomso etietie nipa bi fa hodie so ye omayakayaka de na wantua mpatasika amma saafo na se nei saafo ne tiase a empanyimfo mo no enhye so mbe katakata adadafo na chi na empatasika watua bibi a wo so mo ye makotwa no pepa kra wonhye so betumi etu ho anamo.
We're very privileged to host the 13th high-level dialogue on democracy and human rights, governance, peace and security, an essential forum at a defining moment in Africa's development trajectory. This year's dialogue, convened under the theme Justice, Rights, Reparations and State Building, reaffirms our shared commitment to confronting the structural challenges that continue to shape Africa's condition. It reflects our collective will to advance democracy, uphold human rights, strengthen governance, and ensure peace and security for the people of our continent. It also affirms our conviction that true and lasting peace can only be achieved when justice exists, when the rights of our people are respected, and when governance systems are truly inclusive. That true and lasting peace can only be achieved when justice are respected and when governance systems are truly inclusive, accountable, and are owned by the people that they serve.
Government Accountability Series, you made air cost
to Bolga. So there was the matrix has already been set, which is to interconnect our regions and create a good synergy that links the regions to the national capital in a very systematic way. So that's the first basis, and we believe that when we do this, it will actually spare what government is trying to do with the 24-hour economy and other things. You talked about how competitive it will be since the ministry itself is doing. In fact, even if before you do competitive tendering, the agencies under the ministry always come up with what we believe the thing should cost. We call it the engineers, sometimes engineers a figure. So it's not as if when we want to build a road between Accra and Kumasi, you can come and tell us it costs $10 billion. We know you are not being truthful because as we stand here, we have an idea how much it will cost. So we expect your bidding figures to be around that. So that doesn't make it any different. But what used to happen in the past is that we basically rely on developers to tell us how much they want to charge. And on many occasions, we believe that some of that cost would have been reduced if we did a bit more diligent work by ourselves by doing the studies and coming up with the cost. So sometimes, if you realize that the thing would definitely cost 50 cedis and coming up with the cost. So sometimes, if you realize that the thing would definitely cost 50 cedis, even if we diligent work by sometimes if that I've done the sums, it should cost around that price. Yes, I was at that meeting where the contractor or the contractor's rep promised that within 6 weeks we'll see some improvement. Indeed, immediately we saw the contractor on site, some work have started. For me, the most important thing is that today, I know the contractor's biggest problem was they've not been paid. And I must say the contractor was owed over 70 million Ghana dollars, which the previous government didn't pay. I was surprised they were on top of the roof asking us to pay the contractors. How much did they leave? In fact, even the $300 and something million that IMF gave us, if you listen to the finance minister, they spent it in 6 days before they left. They made sure they spent everything before they left. But President Mahama is not complaining. We are saying that we owe the contractors. We shall work hard and pay them. And today, I can confirm that some payment have been made to the contractor working on our Anchor project, and we expect that the activities on that side should pick up so that at least we can create, as for the motorists, whilst we work towards completing the rest of the project. Well, I mean, I know we have paid in excess of 300 million Ghana cedi. Yeah, well, that is the financing model of Anchor project. This was GOG. And then I must say that some of our colleagues who spoke on the other side were saying the project was not fun. I mean, it was GOG project. But you remember the $750 million Afri-Exim loan? Then they gave the contractors, some of the contractors, part of that money. But because it's a one-off loan, it's not sustainable. That money has been spent, so the project is back to GOG. So we need to find the money and pay them. That is why President Mahama directed that it should be captured as big push. So we will prioritize the payment for the completion of the Anchor project the same way Kaswa to Winneba and beyond. The additional information is that you notice that when you talk about projects that have been abandoned, when President Mahama took over, we never asked any contractor to stop work. In fact, those of you who followed me across the country, I was rather encouraging contractors to have faith with the state to continue work. Roll back 2017, government took a decision to suspend many projects, including especially Cocoa Road project. And that is part of the reason we have so much damage the Cocoa Road project, because contractors were about finishing. Some of them actually had resources to finish the project. They were told to stop. President Mahama never asked anybody to stop work. No contractor was asked to stop work. That is the reset we are talking about. We are different from the MPP in terms of handling issues at the road ministry. Yes, what President Mahama is intending to do in the road sector, I am sure if it's MPP, there would have been 50 slogans about it by now. But we don't deal with rhetorics and slogans. We shall deliver the road. You can do your slogans later. Yes, some of the roads, we need to improve the pedestrian. Some of the roads, we need to improve the pedestrian, infrastructure around some of the roads. Sometimes where we put the footbridges and other things are not exactly where the pedestrians want it. So the new things we are trying to do, in fact, we have even identified roads that do not have that. We want to work on it. And then you talked about the traffic lighting. All those are part of maintenance things we are going to do. And we actually started rehabilitating some of the damaged street lights. My brother from Joy FM, you are right. The irony is that the data we have suggests that road crashes happen through various means. We have road crashes on roads that are in a very bad state. Then we have road crashes on roads that have just been completed that drivers can't hesitate or can't save themselves from the road is so good, overspeeding. So it is not a simple story of the road is bad, you have accident, or the road is good, we have accident. It is, in many cases, if you listen to the expert, driver error in many of the cases. Because, of course, if the road is two directions, single lane, two direction, and you want to overtake, or those of us who drive, it is always said that you overtake when it is safe. But unfortunately, we do have those situations. Dualizing the roads will not take away road crashes. You see road crashes, so when you count the big push projects, they are not up to that number. So let everybody just become number. So let everybody just become. Because my sister talked about, we call it the beach road. That is supposed to be running from Independence Square all the way through to Junction Mall. It is a project funded by a Chinese, I think CDB, China Development Bank. You will notice that myself and the finance minister were in China a few weeks ago. We are having those discussions because it's not a GOG funded, and the Chinese are interested in doing it. And we must thank the Chinese and the Chinese are interested in doing it. And we must thank the Chinese government, some of the Chinese abandoned road projects. We are having those discussions because it's not Chinese are interested in Chinese road to projects. In a few weeks' time, they will be back to complete those projects which are still within their portfolio. So the beach road is one of those. It's not a GOG. We are working to close those discussions so that we can complete them. They will not be abandoned. The same applies to the Peshi Bridge. I'll let my agencies take care. The specific issue about PPP, no one says we don't want to do PPP. In fact, when people come to my office every day, we want to do BOT, we want to do PPP. We are saying that the economic climate we have currently does not lend itself for government to enter into a any PPP agreement. As I speak, there's absolutely no PPP road project in the country. Like I said, Accra Tamamoto Way has nothing to do with PPP. It is purely a GOG project being funded by GOG. So we may get to a point beyond IMF where we have the ability to enter into those kinds of agreements, and then we can go ahead and do a PPP on major projects. That is what my deputy was talking about. So we are saying the same thing. But currently, you are not even allowed to have that discussion, let alone form it into a PPP project. So we are not actively pursuing a PPP program on road now because we don't even have the capacity until we go beyond the IMF program. I think those are the main. And then somebody asked, how are we going to ensure competitiveness and other things? I must say that the haste in which we are currently, the demand for action now, we would do whatever it takes to make sure that there's value for money in the selection of all contractors. The principle is that it is a contractor with the best capacity, the best attitude, and the best determination to align with the vision of President Mahama under the 24-hour economy. I have been to sites, and in fact, I have been to sites up signboard that this site is a 24-hour economy site. Anyway,
Omampanyi John Dramani Mahama oni yabonwura wo gonja nanan atsankonwa jira bi kunutu Jeus Wali a odin kan ene ne dom ahiem ewo omampanyi atsenaye enkasasi adwumadie emonom ene omampanyi di adesede etu kusasi ene mampusifo anim se adaroma asomdwe die etwam so omma kwan no omma na dwa obetena se enti die ekoso oboko no kasa na nigi ho na omboa enti omhwe masomdwe enya adwuma.
Your Majesty, there can be no progress.
Hello, Mampanyi di adesede etu kusasi ene mampusifo so omma kwan no omma no kasa na nigi ho na
peace that reigns in Gonjaland. It is my wish that other areas will learn from the peace that Gonja enjoys. So I take this occasion to appeal to our brothers and sisters, Kusasis and Mamprusis, to give peace a chance. We cannot accept this current situation where students are shot in school and killed. We can't accept the current situation where teachers, public officers have all run away from Boko because they are afraid for their lives. And we have given the mediation efforts to Otumfo, and he has briefed me constantly on the progress that he's been making. And we are almost there. And so the current fighting and killings can only be done by people who want to derail the mediation effort. And so let's give peace a chance. But as the army has announced, I have directed the army to move from peacekeeping to peace enforcement. That means they're going to be a bit more robust with anybody who is involved in criminality. And so let us give peace a chance, not only in Boko, but in Nkwanta and all the other places where we currently are suffering conflict.
Also for share atente ne ho nsem so ye aban lawyer panyin eye Dr. Dominic Ayine e de adisedi atomrahye bedwam committee a wo mo hye emra e ho nsem so anim say atemu adwuma no emunymaifo ebre waketua e wo fom nima bebre enkoyie enti amomu bebre na epe akonya kra na omafim ape ba bia fa won hwe ho asem enkama no.
One of the key problems that we face is staffing. Throughout the country, we have less than 400 state attorneys. Now, you realize that the Attorney General's Department or the Attorney General's Office is a government's law chambers, meaning that every problem that is legal in nature, that has to do with ministries, departments, and agencies. In fact, it is even worse in what I may call the rural regions of the country. If you go to Upper West, we have less than 10 state attorneys working for the entire region. It is even worse in Bolga. I don't think we have any state attorneys in the south. Okay? Now, just imagine the plethora of cases that, come from the MDAs in a region like Western region. With the Galamsey matter needs to be solved. We will make an effort to employ as many lawyers as we can, all right? But it is one thing recruiting lawyers, and it is another thing retaining them. The high attrition rate that has afflicted this ministry ever since I took office is something that I need to bring to your attention, because we have state attorneys leaving, and in fact,
Omampanyin abo Owura James Jachi question edin se eniema koyie ma namra hyebedwafo agini tuma onye osoafo abedi echi obehwe amano ne nsem eso one afofo mi nse bi namra hyebedwafo no eko asesena no wono akobenkrom age omunyina ato.
The Speaker, when we vet, our duty is to enrich governance. The minority does not get into the vetting with the aim to embarrass. Never. Mr. Speaker, we have watched the vettings of this House in 2001, 2005, when Right Honorable Speaker was the minority leader. I urge some of our critics to go watch those videos and the long hours that the minority leader then spent on the nominees of Kufuor's government. Mr. Speaker, and again, if you watch government, Mr. Speaker, and again, if you watch the of the Harun Idrisu era with Honorable Muntaka, his chief whip then, you realize that every single cabinet minister nominee went through proper. Mr. Speaker, I was a deputy majority leader. And what I did was that when the minority were going through their questions, I will take note and come back to do what I call re-examination so that we'll fix it. Mine was not to make noise and obstruct.
Mr. Speaker, as it has been said by those who spoke before me, they discharged themselves very well and demonstrated some knowledge. Of course, they don't know it all, some knowledge of the areas that they are going. And they made it very clear that they are actually going to support their ministers.
Honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate, as many as are in favour that motion listed 11 in today's order paper be adopted, say aye. All those against, say no. Honourable members, it's obvious. The ayes have it. The motion listed 11 is adopted, and that this Honourable House has approved His Excellency the President nomination for appointment of Ms. Dorcas Toffee, MP, Deputy Minister Designate for Ministry of Transport, Mr. James Jachikwesin, MP, Deputy Minister Designate for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Mohammed Adam Sapuru, MP, Deputy Minister Designate for the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, and finally, Professor Grace Ayensu-Dankwa, MP, Deputy Minister Designate for the Ministry of Health.
Edom kuma wo mrahye bedwam ese omo ebisa omampanyi John Dramani Mahama se anye bia project na adwumadi akese bi wa hye Ghana fobo e de bepem enne no aso wo twentwen ne nanse e wo saa na montuo no ho wo se ebiti se Women Development Bank afi the big push e na 24-hour economy enkomo hwe kwan se animanim idie nka ban pie sika gum amasa na emeni nyina eye adwuma so e de bepem ne omo hu bibia.
During the debate on the 2025 budget statement in March 2025, we pointed out our disappointment about inadequate provision for the priority programs of the government, an indication the government does not intend to fulfill its promises, the promises they made to the people of Ghana. The mid-year review has proven this case to be true, as the minister has failed to release adequate funds, even for the programs that have budget lines for the ministries to implement these programs. The National Apprenticeship Program, which is one of their flagship programs, they allocated 300 million Ghana cedis. Half of the year, the minister has released only 21 million Ghana cedis. That is just 7% of the allocation. You look at the Ejumara program, they allocated 100 million Ghana cedis. They've released only 34.5 million, half of the year. Agriculture for Economic Transformation, they've released only 34.5 million, half of the year. Agriculture for Economic and program, we have the Ghana Grains Development Project, we have the Vegetable Development Project, and we have the Popular Nkoko Nkitinkiti. They allocated 1.5 billion Ghana cedis for these programs. Ladies and gentlemen, it will sadden you to know that half into the year, the minister has not even released one cedi for the implementation of this program. Yet they have launched the Feed Ghana program already. But as I speak to you, half into the year, not one cedi has been released for the establishment of the Women Development Bank. It's very sad, isn't it? The National Codex program, again, they allocated 100 million Ghana cedis. They have released 0. And then big push, 13.8 billion Ghana cedis allocated for that. Again, half into the year, not a cedi has been released for the implementation of Big Push. So we are at a loss. And I don't know how serious this government has taken the trust of the people of Ghana. We have consistently stated that the government did not provide budget for the 24-hour economy. in spite of the fact that they launched the program on 2nd July 2025. The minister has now conceded in the mid-year review that it will provide funding in the 2026 budget to implement the program. The question is, why do you launch a program when you have no budget to implement it? We know, but we on the minority side know why the minister has failed to fund these priority programs of the government. We know because the records show that 28 treasury auctions held from January 3rd, 2025 to July 11, 2025. 13 auctions failed to meet the auction target with bid cover ratios below 1, despite high participation in the early part of the year. Therefore, the minister had to divert the funds meant for these priority programs to fund the auction shortfall, which would not have arisen if he had not manipulated interest rates on government treasuries.
Ofuasi ayi bi mrese bedwani ono abokojo opon kroma asem ode etu dwane se enke wo se aban etumi nye sika bebre e wa bosumi nsia edi yanim e wa fi emo enso sika wo mo hwe kwan se aban benya no emu 3 billion Ghana cedis wantumi amfa koto anye nkwa wanu wa breko a ode taxes ana eto makoma foforo enwoche na abantu we che se ye hwe aban ni dwumadi a wodie ni omani sika semu a wate aba from kra.
On the 17th of January 2025, the then Minister for Finance designate told the whole Ghana, after he had sworn an oath on the Bible, that he was going to increase revenue by 13 or from 13 to 18% of GDP without introducing new taxes. This was the gravamen of the revenue side of the fiscal strategy. And he was fortified when he came to Parliament to present the actual numbers by telling us that that strategy was going to lead to revenue of 102 billion Ghana cedis by the end of June. In fact, when we started the discussions, we cautioned that the taxes that were being removed was going to lead to a minimum of about 6 billion Ghana cedis revenue shortfall. So if he was going to be able to increase revenue without increasing new taxes and there was a potential 6 billion shortfall, then his revenue strategy, if he could achieve it, will support him. I'm sure you all recall this conversation and this long debate. On the expenditure side, he also said that he was going to spend about 128 billion Ghana cedis. And again, we cautioned that coming from where we were coming, it was important rather to approach fiscal consolidation through expenditure cut. Earlier, we had mentioned, we had even put out an estimate that it should be about 3% of GDP for the year. You recall Dr. Bawumia modeling 3% of GDP, about 30 billion Ghana cedis. And so again, we cautioned that that expenditure strategy, as part of the broader fiscal strategy, was not going to lead the results. The minister told us that at the end of the day, it will lead to a primary balance of 0.4%. So mid-year, you have to compare this strategy to the outturns. Colleagues, on the revenue side, after sweeping 11 billion Ghana cedis balance brought forward that the MPP government left, which the NDC government claimed there were no buffers. After they swept 11 billion, they now introduced at least eight new taxes. If you add some of the tariffs to it, it will even be more than that. So after sweeping 11 billion and introducing 8 new taxes, they are still short of about 3 billion Ghana cedis revenue. That is why we say in all humility that the revenue side of their fiscal strategy is failing. In fact, you recall that when we cautioned, the minister told us that there was a smart way he was going to close the gap by reducing the VAT retention threshold from 6% to 4%, and that would be enough to close it. Again, I'm sure you recall. We are realizing it's a smart way he was going to close the gap by reducing from 4%. Again, I'm sure you are realizing
Narcotics Control Commission NACOC Womasaka gold bar esika kokko ayanane na yetwitwa wo shapes ahoro mako edunson yedi gu sika emu ekawia ana sika fam ni dro no eye $1.7 million and that is wadane ediama Ghana gold board ewo Ministry of Interior and Crime na sa gold bars mako edunson no Upper East Command Narcotics Control Commission for na ejeye every Burkina adehye mienu bi enchen ewo paga ehye no eso na wo chirema na sa Burkina adehye mienu nkomo di gold bars mako edunson no efa esumase anakuntuna se ede adwane efi omayi emu na woje edifi wo mo ensem wasan de ko adu bebre abobo wo mo ewo gold anasika kokko dwumedi a wodie ene ehwana muntu ampanyifo hu ne se wanfa emrakwan so netu ye no emom na osoafo a wo hwe efisem nsem eso onobu muntaka Mubarak ede an hobansem ama gold board mpanyifo nyina ese na so ye no etawachi pampe na wo mbeye de ombetimi ama Ghana yensika kokko no ya hwe etumi aboho eban na kwankyerefo panyin oda gold board ano lawyer Sami Jemfidi aseda ama director general odana na so ye no etawachi pampe na wo mbeye de ombetimi ama Ghana yensika kokko no ya hwe etumi aboho eban na kwankyerefo panyin oda gold board ano lawyer Sami Jemfidi aseda ama director general odana Narcotics Control Commission aprim rashibedwem akonwa ewo akwatia ebra by election bobobe
your party no a very democratic party nti yura komi honest asem kesese to na ohwane ni hwe dan no na ama party na ehwa kire no party na gija na ama oyini ato yen asem kese pa sesa abrante mono sa na wahwe ne nkwa na ama yenyina ya boto na so de ye politics tie no ye democracy e kire se obi a we member of parliament se uwa na ye bo parliament amania within the 60 days also electoral commission omo toaba and omo toaba na yi fufuro nti ye party no the highest decision making body conference ni ho a National Executive Council transi na omo power ba so kobi committee no mo hwe no mo select candidate emakotia ni wia yensan so engina MPP anemu organize elections no ema MPP okotia nza ba so kon ekuo no na MPP Eastern Region Chairman Yera Jeff Koneduado na chairman mimika ho MP for Tiwa East Honorable Abna Osasa ka ho MP for Fantiakwa North Honorable Kwame Apiakodua ka ho MP for Akim Swedro Honorable Ken Osenyako ka ho ye National Elections and Research Officer ka ho and constituency chairman for Kotia ka ho former DC Kotia and constituency secretary and regional secretary any members of the committee into your first year no so ne ko krom ho ko ye adwuma and yesa FR research company some nhwene de be ehu hia se wo se to aba na enti ye kakosi ye no party for no omo mpese be to aba enti party for no agree say ye to aba ye nko ne ye mpe obi ama isan se time ni so ye wie ye no na nyame adom ye hwemu ne de research report ni nyae no ye de bae na nipa mienu enom diaba we nom di by no ne de National Council last week Friday National Council so eka say e de ekoni nipa bi ka ho se entrance ne nhwem bio ye bibia wie ne ye share aspirants ni na ene nyina ye yi nipa akọ nti no ka say ye yi era Solomon Asumadu se onyina mu na nkoko pray akotia city man bio election be ba so nyame bo on the 2nd of September e wakotia.
A driver for ne asenkafo odi akoniaba e wo kentampa kwantempon no eso no nanunie wo mani nye wo chese trailer bi anyankwanhia bia kwan no mu e de bepem enne empanyifo anyi trailer no emfi onto wo se enimanimu ya emfi kwan no
mi se car no na wono wa fairly break e wo soro no nti obesan we ho to obesan no me nim de ekoso de na me nso me ba na me besan we ho nti de me hu ya ne se me be hu se ono wa be cross kwan no police for more direct traffic no omanya kwan bia kasa keto ne de etimi fa honom ba kese ne de yentimi nko ba kese ne empty ne de bitimi fa honom e de e be piara side ba kese na omo malodi ne de nya de ombetimi akọ nti esre so omote enka de a onko omo nye den mpanyimfo omo mehwe na enka omo mpega emma ye na yentimi nya kwan nko because yagina ha ache
a principal no de nyamintumi nti de omo boy ho ban correct ase de boni bia ni ase kwanu na asi ese ya no Ghana no yese nhwe saasom no na enka ne ma ye fa yese omo ma obi omo ma 10 days obi ka be say ise aka obi ho one day ese on pandru border ya be da ase 3 days some ye kwan no de mpanifo Ghana mpanifo mo hwe na mo nye ma ye
anka ye 50 tons anka ye drivers na no ni na ya twika we afiri kwa mu ba obi na odi ne ka ba twika we dina obajulo na ye kwan saa wa Ghana debi obokwa akọbọ botia into maskel phone ye omodwuma yie
nti no ane se omo ankasa aye out of na ababe block kwan no nti se ya me ne okasai since morning 4 a.m. up to now yatimi amanage a clear road no so hwe ya once cars na afi na anya ho a ekọ nti the military command akwa another bulldozer aka ho nti weinom e clear omo ho efiri honom wia na bulldozer na ababe ka ho na car na across kwan no ya twe afiri honom so that left and right cars are parking work in tampo nyina be duru honom no se be ya bia betumi akọ nti me no kasa yi de se de kwan no yatimi a clear indiscipline no e de afiri honom nti akasa main trailer na ablock kwan no and a military command hierarchy no so omo de sa crane na ye betimi e de atwe car.
Coalition of Civil Society Organizations in Migration Africa. Woman na womo eka say, wodi ato abibi man emakomaku edubako a womo fa womo enhye Africa Free Movement Protocol a womo jitu mu 2018 mu se womo nhye so mbetumi de womo agim esan se so womo de womo gima ebo ma enipa ene eniema kone abedie e wa bibi man ahye so no ekoyie emadwadie egina ne nan so na emesikasem enso etumi etu empon.
The AU came out in 2018 with a proposal to have a continental free movement protocol, but that protocol requires at least 15 member states to ratify it for it to come into force. As we stand now, only 4 member states have ratified the protocol. So within Ghana, with support from the German government, the MEG project, which is ensuring that migration is a topical issue and is well supported, the civil societies in Ghana came together to form a coalition. So we now have the Coalition of Civil Societies on Migration in Ghana. And this effort is a workshop, is a training workshop, which is supposed to support civil society members to lobby government, to advocate for the ratification of this free movement protocol. And the same is being done across the continent with like-minded civil society organizations to get a minimum of 11 additional ratifications from member states.
Libya, about the security problem, security. Then say of ECOWAS free movement protocol, security. And at the end of free movement interest, won't mean to Nema. Free movement just say, Ubet me a microphone, and so by your Mra Bedisu. Pension who argues security. There be ECOWAS free movement, and I never have and so security behind your concern.
Faswa free movement in a country not dangers are associated to cross country or cross border crimes and also no country net me a year free ho. Going for West Africa, what the happenings are Eba or Burkina Faso near the terrorists near the no. We are cautious of that. It's tricky, but we need to also accept it.
A bank crash penina what my north. Hey, Honorable Adum Kwabena Johnson, or the Anobansem Amomam for more around no. Hey, what my north mensi e Bunu East Mountain Muse, MPP say ensure etona a yira. And my womuchi or mamma say, and miam yampank also mokonum kodidano, or muntumi enko, also beshe, nasa a how no wasano edi amao.
So we are my a bus school and so after I bread, ye blepa, Simon Yamai.
near Quine dear. A say a check. Me Abraham is saying as here and I see. National Navy and so on, it's an uncle into Minka. It's in one is a Italian Abuana Yaboa. And some kind of party in Yaya, come here whom we my uncle, Papa. I don't want any now how many upon me to here, and so high come on. It
has been a problem for some years now. We have appealed to various governments, but it's like all of our efforts have been in vain. Government have always promised us that there will be a bridge construction here, but for some time now, we've not seen anything yet, and this has been the problem for several years. It's our hope that this administration will do something about this road. This is a rainy season. If they could look at this video and then treat this as an emergency, because we can see students being stranded here.
Nabo Elizabeth Soldier, our non-professional trade minister. Someone among the group. Every engineers a call her or more caution problem there. The engineers make a serious drainage problem. The university cost a capital intensive. The ama feeder rules for more capture. Ewo afi omo nhihye a omo aye mo de akwa akra ke ma me ampi Elizabeth Soldier omo nkasa 80 na mo we are hope e dey fi wona awa mo for omo ha for and so fi wa as a chief executive edema assembly
Centroni ba kwa otipnuti na odi good evening Ghana ehun ensem ana otnapnuti se chiame e o Metro TV eye Paul Adom Oche wakasa e wade chensumadwumedie so e de atodwa se emre bia na oye board chairman e wo Ghana Airport Company Limited no nanka akonya wo se omutumi tu ekwan e wo mine dim na o mine bom hoka enso sa akonya ni na wampe esan amanyosem ene abodina keka enti
airport board no se tu kwan a na me nkobi
ade
na me ka ba chiro ade enti omukọ board members say quite say airport members ko na omukọ na me say me de nkobi no say chema ade na me say mesre mo a de monko dachi ba ba chiro Paul Adom Oche spends $300,000 traveling anya sanya no kre but a normal ade about chairman beye but omubema ama wo ho aye hi nti wunya boni bia nti ebi kra wo call airport wesi ama airport na tumpon why say na na wo fa $300,000 wo de tu kwan ade wo kwan de wo ye hwan but ebia old board chairman ye bi e ade obi aye nti enu nti no ebema politics no ama politicians ne hu say ade kra ye normal no menhwe na manye ehu awom ne say ebia katashese ne proye be koso but politician be careful so be cover because oko sawo party asekra yesi we weska inti na say me say NDC penyi be ka this one say sa videos ne be ba na mo samosa no bi ansa but enka di pasa enka nye boni
enka nye position occupy anka o
ba occupy position outside enye boni kwame kuma president osa bebre ne na videos wo ho but ene we opposition ebia oka bia we use in opposition say who say na say bi by Malik Basintali just akoto car bi and all the car no picture by say 2023 car and 2024 like 2024 car 2025 just auto asana ababa we say da bi oboa na Malik Basintali abeye yi say o yes ka abaisi ka de koto car na obi betimi ahu no say Malik mobile ban mu moya de me hu adwuma wo ye metoka achew
eno so wo ho no
eno bebre wo ho but say sa aka no de ba Malik won't me use because our ban mu and opposition ni no enim say we boni bia ni ho but onim say obetimi ama no ama ho aye hin nti no
na
obeka
wo sheka sie e wo United Television eso ye wo ship house Abeka Junction enkran yenye nkrato ye ba bongo di fara agopramaso ense